What the fuck is up, guys? What the fuck is up, guys?
Coming back at you with another episode
From the Backups. Today's episode is dedicated to our lovely co-workers, Jessica the Cactus
and Jerome the other plant.
Yeah, so those are our really most hardworking people around the set, around the office.
Come to work every day. They don't complain. They deal with all of our bullshit. So we just want to give a quick shout out to our two good friends who come and make the show happen.
Definitely.
So,
moving into the video.
In this one, we're going to be doing all the NBA awards. Now that the season's over, the next thing to look forward to is the awards are going to be coming up in the next month or so.
Yep.
And so it's finally time to look back at the regular season again. I know it feels like a while, but and get into all the awards. So
Definitely.
First one,
Defensive Player of the Year.
So I have Anthony Davis. He was first in blocks for the whole year with 2.5 blocks per game, and he had a steal and a half per game, which is pretty good. And he just carried his team all year, and he did a lot of that defensively. Just like, the blocks and the steals just show a little bit of like how much he does on defense. And yeah, I mean, he just kind of dominated all year. Uses his length, and I think just the numbers show that I would pick him for Defensive Player of the Year.
Yeah, I think it was close looking. I think for me, Joel Embiid, I think, had the biggest impact defensively this season. I think third in defensive rating.
Yeah.
Sixers third-ranked defense in the league, as well as having 11 rebounds per game and 1.8 blocks.
Yeah.
For me, like when he was on the court, he made the biggest difference defensive-wise out of any team, I think.
Yeah.
And then there's a guy in Rudy Gobert that I think is really, really close.
Mm-hmm.
I think him missing the chunk of games that he did.
That hurt him a lot, for sure.
Yeah, but otherwise I think he's up there.
Yep.
For me, I just think it's Joel Embiid. I think what he did for the Sixers just this year was pretty huge.
Yeah.
Making them an actual defensive team to reckon with.
I was surprised when I saw that the Sixers had the third best defense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so, and they weren't even far behind at all, the top two. They were basically right up there. So
Yeah.
Joel Embiid's obviously a huge part of that.
Mm-hmm.
But so I think you can go either way with that. I think Anthony Davis's block and steal numbers are a little bit higher.
Yeah.
And Joel Embiid's defensive rating, I intentionally didn't put Anthony Davis's defensive rating because it was 8th.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know if that shows that he's the defensive player of the year quite as much. But I think you have a good case for both of them. Same thing with Rudy Gobert.
Yeah.
And, 3 good candidates, but I say Anthony Davis.
Yeah, I think Joel Embiid, but I think it's close.
Yeah, for sure.
I think, who's walking away with the award? Who do you think?
I'm going to give it to Anthony Davis.
Yeah.
Honestly.
I think he'll probably end up walking away with it. I
Yeah.
think it's Joel, but I think there's a decent chance he...
I think it hurts him also because for the whole year, he only played 29, 30 minutes a game. And so I think that kind of makes all of his points and things go down.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think, it's a close 3-way race between all of them. But, I'd give it to Anthony Davis.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Sixth Man of the Year.
Number 1, it's pretty clear. It's been pretty clear for a while. Ever since he dropped 50 on the Warriors, he's basically cemented himself
As the best bench player.
Lou Will. Smoking on Lou Will.
Yeah. Led all 6 men in points.
Yeah.
Led the team in points and assists, which, off the bench, 22.6 points per game and 5.3 assists.
That's all-star numbers.
53.5% shooting.
Yeah.
Pretty damn good.
No, he, usually for the 6th man of the year, it's usually the 6th man who has the most points.
Yeah.
And he blows everybody out of the water. I think Eric Gordon has 18, but that's he's almost 5 away, and he has the assist numbers too.
Exactly.
So he's clear-cut. He was their best player this year off the bench, the Clippers' best player.
Definitely.
So I think that's really hard to do. And second, the guy who won last year,
who you just mentioned,
Eric Gordon.
Eric Gordon.
He had another really good year.
Yeah, 18 points a game.
He really
third option on one of the NBA's best teams. Really.
Yeah, they were a game away from going to the finals and maybe winning.
Pretty much.
And he's a big part of that team. Whenever, he basically makes it so when James Harden goes out, him and Chris Paul could play together, and when Chris Paul goes out, him and James can play together. So they literally have a dynamic all-star backcourt.
Yeah.
At all times.
Definitely.
And so he kind of lets them, do what they want to do on offense. And, great shooter.
Yeah, great shooter.
Just great spark off the bench.
Yeah, and another guy I even think Will Barton. Deserves a mention. I think 15.7 points per game, still pretty solid with 4 assists.
Not a lot of people say him. He's pretty kind of a sneaky. Denver. It's nobody really watches the Nuggets that often. I'll be brutally honest here. No one's that interested. They've been hovering around 500 for 5 years. It's okay.
Yeah.
But he's a guy who comes off the bench who, scores almost 16 points a game and is just another one of those guys. You kind of see with the best, sixth men, they're just explosive sparks off the bench. He'll just come in really quick, after the first starter's done and, just help the team when they need it.
Definitely.
So, next award, another one that I think a lot of people kind of knew the outcome of this award for a while. Most improved.
Victor Oladipo.
It had to be Victor Oladipo.
He turned into an all-star pretty much.
He went from a role player who I was disappointed in last year on the Thunder.
Yeah,
I was
season.
He's going to be with Westbrook. That's actually going to be pretty sick. And he just shat the bed. So, this year had a huge bump.
Yeah, 23.1 points per game, 5.2 rebounds, 4.3 assists. He was great with 2.4 steals.
Led the league in steals.
Leading the leagues in steals.
Wait, was he all defensive first team? Or second team?
Second team. All defensive second team. He was great for the Pacers, really made it so, when they lose a star caliber player like Paul George, they didn't even really skip a beat because Victor stepped up right away.
Yeah, after the whole playoffs wrapped up, it looks way more impressive now that the Pacers took the Cavs to 7.
Definitely.
Considering they made it to the NBA Finals, if the Raptors can get a game off,
yeah,
the Pacers are pretty good. So I think he made them not skip a beat when they lost Paul George. They actually were more successful with him than Paul George, which is funny.
Yeah, definitely.
And he made the All-Star game and Paul George didn't. Which is, he made the All-Star game for the first time in his career. This last year he had, I don't know, did you already mention this? He only had 16 points last year.
I did not. 4
rebounds, 2 assists, and a steal. So he's going up, 7 points, rebounds, a couple assists. So he had an amazing first year.
Definitely. And he was
Pacers.
The head above heels. He was the first option.
It's kind of like what we saw with Yacht. A little bit less, but someone who goes from a good role player an all-star. That's a hard jump to make.
Definitely.
And the second guy is kind of a little bit of a different situation than Oladipo.
Definitely.
Spencer Dinwiddie. If you don't know him, I wouldn't blame you. Yeah, he's on the Nets. And he's just kind of recently.
He was in the All-Star game.
Yeah, he won the skills competition. That he probably got a lot of clout from that.
Yeah, definitely.
And but improved his points per game from 7 to 12.6. So basically, just last year wasn't really even playing very many minutes at all. He was on the bench, and then this year I think he was. When D'Angelo Russell was out, he was the starter at point guard for a lot of the year. He's a big 6'7" point guard.
He's big.
And so he improved his assists from 3 assists to 6.6 assists per game. So he's able to dish out passes while scoring points.
Yeah. Established himself as a quality role player or starter after being cut.
Yeah,
traded multiple times.
His first couple years, he was on the Pistons.
Yeah.
And he was getting cut. He just wasn't getting playing time. And he finally was able to break out this year.
And then 3, we got Giannis Antetokounmpo.
Giannis.
Moving from 22.9 to 26.9 points per game. Most of his other stats were the same, but he's kind of showed that he could be that scorer. He had worked on his jump shot and stuff. He was knocking down a couple threes. He was actually able to be more of a threat in other parts of the court. So really, I think he made, a jump from like just an all-star to like an actual like debate like MVP candidate.
Like at the beginning of the year, like it was
everyone was like, oh,
it was
Giannis.
like 30 points per game. You're like, oh shit, like he came out on fucking like fire.
Yeah.
And you were like, is he just gonna like score 30 plus and win MVP? But
yeah.
slowed down a little bit. And I think, once they get like they have a new coach, and I think that could help, and just developing their players and stuff around him. I think he needs a good team. Like, even though he's such a dominant player, I think having shooters around him would help a lot. Yeah,
hugely.
So I was considering him for second. And for a lot of the beginning of the year, I thought he might be first.
Yeah.
But he just a lot of his other stats didn't improve as much as the other guys.
Yeah.
So.
But he still deserves consideration.
Next. The most exciting award that we have.
The most epic.
The one that has everybody on the edge of their seats, shitting their pants. Coach of the Year. And
so for first, we had Brad Stevens for Coach of the Boston Celtics. We kind of ranked it on, what moves you did and what you did with the talent you had on your team this year. Brad Stevens, he
had to deal
with he acquired and he was able to get Kyrie and Gordon Hayward to come on over, as well as, with that banged-up Boston team, send them all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah, like, what he was able to do, like, Game 1, Hayward's out. And so, like, and he just
everything changes from that
He just had another guy step up, and, like, Kyrie got injured, like, I forget exactly when it was, but there was...
I thought it was, like, halfway through the season around then.
I think there was, like, 2 months left until the postseason or something.
Yeah, it was, like, a little bit after the halfway mark.
They didn't really even skip a beat that much without Kyrie. And to go to the Eastern Conference Finals, he's just kind of like a Greg Popovich type of guy, just kind of like a next up. Like, someone's got to get the fucking job done. Like, we have a system, and it's going to work whoever it is. So he's one of the only coaches that people, like, actively talk about a lot, I feel like. Yeah, and then number 2.
Next up on the list, we have Greg Popovich.
Good old Greg.
What he did with Kawhi being out this year and just really having LaMarcus as the only all-star on the team. I mean, a couple of young good players. DeJounte Murray is a good, promising young player.
Good defensive guard.
And then, he's got a couple other plug-and-play pieces, but otherwise just LaMarcus was really kind of it that they had and, drug them all the way to the playoffs.
He really should be a consideration for Coach of the Year.
Every year.
Because he's one of the best, if not the best coach of all time. And it's kind of like that LeBron sort of thing. You just kind of get tired, or you get used to it. Mm-hmm. So you don't really appreciate it, but yeah, he could win it every year. And then number 3...
Brett Brown,
he carried, the Philadelphia team. They have a lot of talent. They have Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons, a bunch of good, other players, Covington, Saric. And, they have a lot of good players in theory, on paper, but it just, you didn't know if it was going to work out. And I think he handled Joel Embiid's minutes really well. Mm-hmm. I think he did really good when Joel Embiid went out. And I think he was able to, guide them in the right direction. Even though that's kind of the direction people thought they were going to go in, it's just, you got to give them a good job for just making sure they took the next step.
Exactly.
And got into the playoffs and were competitive and actually won a series, was competitive in the other.
Yeah, definitely. For me, it was huge that he came in and, did, like you said, made that next step. Mm-hmm. And actually, push the team into the playoffs.
Yeah.
They hadn't been to the playoffs since 2006, and it had been a long drought.
And I kind of felt bad for him because he was been the coach for a few years, and it's just they're just tanking, and he's just God damn it, getting 20 wins every year. So I'm glad he finally has a team that he can actually play with. Mm-hmm. So, next, probably the second most exciting award.
Second most exciting for sure.
Executive of the Year. We got Danny Ainge from the Celtics. He made a lot of moves. Kind of talked about it before. Got Kyrie, which is huge. Took that opportunity, and he signed Gordon Hayward. If they were healthy, I wouldn't be surprised. I believe that they would be in the finals. I don't know if they would win, but he took a team with Isaiah Thomas, who a lot of people, thought he would just keep working on in Boston. He scored almost 30 points a game, but he was no, he's not. He's too small. He's not gonna He got a better option.
Yeah, so for me, he made the biggest... Being able to move Kyrie and land Gordon Hayward, those are the two biggest moves by far, I think. I think even those two guys are bigger than say, free agents like Paul George, Chris Paul. I just think those guys are more, they're more in their prime. And I think their value is higher than those guys. So being able to acquire two guys of that value is huge.
And then speaking of Chris Paul, Daryl Morey for what he did, getting in Chris Paul, even getting in guys like P.J. Tucker and like Luke Mbah-a-Moute, because they weren't a very good defensive team, and just to bring guys in that had a little bit more grit is along with Chris Paul, made them the second, in my opinion, like not even close. Like I think the second best team in the league this year.
Yeah.
And then
last, Scott Layden from the Timberwolves.
You got Jimmy Butler. You traded him for Zach LaVine.
It's a pretty good trade.
That's a good trade. Enough said.
Enough said, yeah. Rookie of the Year.
This is a big debate between me and Spencer, even though I am currently wearing a Ben Simmons jersey. I do not believe that he is the Rookie of the Year. I know that sounds fucking stupid, but I'm in the Donovan Mitchell camp. And you are...
in the Simmons camp, obviously.
So I think Mitchell is a better scorer. Obviously he's a better scorer. 20.5 points per game. His assists, he has like around 3.5 assists, so 3.5 rebounds. So that part of his game, he's not great, but he improved as the year went on, and he really led a late season surge along with Rudy Gobert to kind of put them into the playoffs and even win a playoff series. And he just got better and better, and you don't usually see a rookie just lead the team and just take buckets, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I think not many rookies have been able to do that. And I think, personally, Ben Simmons will be better, and I think he's better right now, but I just think Donovan Mitchell did more for his team this year.
Yeah.
So...
for me, I think, Donovan was huge. He was a great up-and-coming scorer in the league, but when I looked at Rookie of the Year and what Simmons brought, I think his 15.8 points per game, 8 assists, 8 rebounds, 1.7 steals, and a block. For me, he was 54% from the field. I think he just really brought more for the whole team on both sides of the ball. I think he was super valuable to the Sixers, and Joel Embiid being a great defensive player, Robert Covington, great defensive player, but he really upped on that.
He's a great defensive rookie.
Yeah, as a rookie, he really added to that team being a huge defensive force in the league. With his size, he's a mismatch, so he carried the Sixers to 17 straight games while Embiid was out to prove that,
he could do it on his own.
He could do it on his own, too, without the ability to shoot. And, for me, this is huge that he's done all this without shooting. Donovan Mitchell's got a good 3 game, but for me, Ben, the passes he can make, what he brings on defense, I think that he's gonna take home the Rookie of the Year. Yeah,
I think it's a 1A, 1B situation, whoever you pick. And I think they're really close. And then third, I thought it was tie between Kuzma and Jason Tatum. And I just gave it to Kuzma. Had a slightly more points, 16 points per game, 6 rebounds. He was a really big surprise, late, I think the 30th or late 20th pick for the Lakers.
Late first round.
He was, ended up being really good. Not the best defender yet, but he's a natural scorer who will be in the league for a long time.
Yeah. So, great points off the bench as well.
Yeah. Okay, now on to MVP. First one, I think a lot of people have this on their ballot. James Harden, 30.4 points per game, 5.4 rebounds per game, 8.8 assists per game. He just dominated all year.
Definitely.
He had a great year, and it's very similar to last year, I thought. But this year he didn't have somebody averaging 30 points and a triple-double to kind of stop him from getting the MVP.
Pretty much. 65-17 record for the Rockets this season behind James, as well as a 60-point triple-double, which was pretty epic by him. So yeah, I think that he was both of our pick for MVP.
Mm-hmm.
Overall, we just think that he brought the most, and I think it's kind of his year. He's missed on it a couple of the last couple years, but this year he really showed that it was his year.
The team's finally the number 1 seed, so they have that going for him, and his stats are still just as amazing as they have been like last year. So he's the clear-cut guy.
Definitely. And then we got number 2, who you could put him as MVP almost any season in the last 10, 15 years. LeBron James, he carried an awful team, to the playoffs and eventually to the NBA Finals. 27.5 points per game, 8.6 rebounds, 9.1 assists. He was just a beast, honestly. And no one else on the Cavs team could really do anything close to what he was doing.
There was a lot of turmoil in the Cavs locker room and on their roster. They basically got a whole new team at the trade deadline, and he fought through all of that. He led the league in minutes. He played 82 games in his 15th season, which is fucking ridiculous. I don't know how he does it. He must be like Iron Man or something, or like just a robot. But he had an amazing year. I think there were times like I remember seeing stats in the month of January. He was god awful.
Yeah.
And the team was god awful. They only won a couple games all month. And so I think times like that and times where he wasn't really himself let James Harden get the award. Because obviously LeBron James is still the best player.
But he has to have a great
But he has
season.
to he played all 82 games, but there's just some times where he didn't go hard every game like James Harden did.
Exactly.
So the third guy, I thought had a really surprisingly good season. I mean, he's amazing, but Anthony Davis. He carried the team once Cousins went out. He actually made them win more once their second best player went out, which is weird. He was second in points per game with 28.1. And, had 11 rebounds, like we said, led the league in blocks.
Definitely. He was huge, honestly, on what he does on both sides of the ball. He was a MVP candidate and a defensive player of the year candidate.
That's pretty hard to do.
So that's pretty huge for him. What he really bring a spark for New Orleans. He hasn't done a whole lot playoff-wise or anything, but now that he finally got them there and got them
sweep.
Yeah, able to get a sweep.
Trailblazers
couldn't do anything.
Yeah, they just got shook.
So he proved that he's a top-tier player in the league.
Yeah, I think
he's worthy of MVP votes.
I think he reestablished himself kind of in an upper echelon with the year that he had, and I expect more from him soon. I wouldn't be surprised if he's number 1 on our MVP ballot in the next couple years.
Definitely.
So that's going to be it for the video, going through all the awards. Make sure if you like this video, make sure to hit a thumbs up. And if you have anything to say, or if you think any of our takes were bad, or if you would have anything else on the list, make sure to let us know down in the comment section below.
Down below, baby. Hit the subscribe button, don't forget that, and hit the fucking bell. Get notified when we post.
Boom.
Peace.
Peace.